Who are you? Now, that's a very common question in the spiritual world. And sooner or later, we need to confront ourselves with this question. Now, this is an answer that cannot come from the mind or from a book, because it's not something that you can just define with a word. It's something much bigger. So there is a process of disidentification that we need to go through in order to create a space inside where you can learn and through experience who you are, feel it, express it. This is what we'll try to do with a very simple exercise and a lot of explanation in this video. When somebody asks us, who are you? We normally reply with your name, right? With our name. But if we have an intent to go deeper into this question, naturally our name and surname, isn't enough. So when we try to define us, even if you use the truth or words like spiritual words, which could be true, like soul or spirit or Son of God or infinite energy, eternal life, all of these words are just words. So are we willing to define ourselves, who we really are, just by a mental definition? We are, of course, much more than that. But in order to do that, we need to go through a process of disidentification. Let's do this together now. So the first question which activates this disidentification process is asking yourself, am I my body, my physical body? Now, of course, naturally for many people who are on this path, the reply is no. However, let's verify it. Let's go a little bit deeper. So if I can now do these movements with my hand, it means that I'm doing them. So it's not the body controlling me, I'm controlling it by moving as I want. Now, so I cannot be the body, because if it would be that way, I wouldn't have control of it. It would be something like automatic. Now, honestly, if we go a bit deeper, we see that it's true, yes, that we have some control on the body, but there are lots of processes where we don't have control, like the heartbeat, or the cleansing process in our body, the metabolism, the digestion, all processes that we have zero control. It's not something that we decide to do. It just works. So there is a part in ourself, in our body, that works without our knowledge. And let's keep this in mind through this process. The second question we can ask is, are we our emotions and are we our thoughts? Now, if that would be true, why can we now, in this moment, for example, you think of a positive event, a happy one. And by thinking that in this moment, it gives you a bit of happiness. So basically, you have modified your thought processes and your emotional experiences in a few seconds. That means that we cannot be our thoughts nor our emotions, because we have some control over them, right? We must be something else. Also, in this case, there is also a part where we don't have all total control, because how many times did it happen that you had some sort of intuition or ideas, like information flowing from you without even knowing that you knew something like that? That's typical with a person that's already a bit advanced more in his awareness. Now that happens because there's also here, there's a part of us that we are not aware of and out of control. So we have control over the thoughts and over the emotions, but there's also something that we're not really aware of. Now, what is this? Why is there the body that works in a part without our awareness, even our thought processes or our emotions? There must be something else. So if we're not the body, if we're not the emotions, if we're not the thoughts, what rests of us? Now, we can again, try to define us through a spiritual word like soul or spirit, but the moment we do that, we lose experience of who we are. Why? Because the mind limits us. Now, why does it limit us? Because every time that we talk, we identify with what we say. And especially if you didn't practice this process of disidentification, you cannot get out of this process, this mind process. Now, the exercise to disidentify from yourself is very simple, and it goes like this. Whatever thought you have in this moment or throughout the day, whatever thought you're aware of course, say inside of you, I'm not this thought. Now, doing this will create an inner small space between you and the thought. Because before you were like identified like this, you were totally identified. But if you say, I'm not this thought process, you push it over here, let's say, and you're over here. Well, you might ask, how does this work? Because if I'm using a thought to tell another thought, that I'm not this thought, it's always a thought. So how do I get out of this? True, this is an excellent point, but I don't know how to explain really technically how this works, but I know that it works because to me it's like this. When you say to your thought, I'm not this, it's like you're opening a crack inside of your awareness and you're giving space or room to give energy with your awareness that you're something else. And this makes a change inside your inner awareness. So I cannot explain more than this, but this is what happens usually. Repeating this, it helps you. Of course, only this exercise won't bring you till enlightenment. Of course not. It's just a basic exercise to start creating space inside of you. Why? Because through this space, your true self can, in time and with practice, manifest. And that's the main reason why all spiritual schools were teaching and suggesting to practice meditation, because meditation builds that inner space, because your inner chatter, your mind chatter, lowers. And by that lowering, you have more space for manifestation of your true self. With this exercise, you don't need to meditate. You just, you're aware of what are your thought process, and you remember you're not these thoughts, which is basically also meditation, but it's a bit more active. You don't need to sit there an hour and meditate. You can do also that, of course, but this is just a different way of doing it. I find it a bit more modern for our period of time of humanity, which we are much more mental than decades ago. By practicing this exercise, you should notice a slowing down of your thought processes. It's like you are more aware of observing them inside of you, and that's a very good sign. But you need time, you need practice if you're new to this, of course, because all our lives we were always thinking about our thoughts, and we believed that we are our thoughts. So what I think is what I am. That was our old belief. Now the new one isn't like that. It's what I think is not what I am. So building this inner space is very important for various reasons. I can think of two big ones right now. And one is when you, through your disidentification process, you build this inner space, you start seeing easier your inner parts, your shadow parts. That means that you can work on yourself and heal yourself much better and quicker. So that's a big one there. The second big benefit is when you do the practices like the ones that are mentioned in the Elios book, my book, Elios. One of them is the practice of the sunrise meditation. And now imagine yourself when you're in the morning in front of the sun, you open yourself up to absorb all these energies. Who is going to absorb more? The person who is identified totally with his thought processes, or the one that is a bit disidentified and opens up much better because he has less sort of filters in front of him. He is more open to his true self, and he can absorb better that energy. So also for the purpose of absorbing the Christ consciousness from the sun, or you can call it whatever energy you want from the sun, and to nurture your Christ seed, this identifying from your inner parts as much as possible in time is an important process. So thank you for listening, and hope to see you in the next video.